we approach fostering and developing these skills, in our respective roles as educators. And here maybe with, you've already mentioned some practical examples that you sort of come alongside, the student that you just mentioned, being able to say, well, this is how you do it, or are there some resources that you found personally helpful in helping you navigate in this world, and are there particular kinds of barriers you see given our student population, that things that we need to pay extra careful attention to in terms of what we need to do to help them? Anything you like to?
You see it over and over again in the academy in particular, that there's this split between skills and knowledge, that skills are one thing and you use them to get the knowledge. I find that so artificial as to be irrelevant. So that's the way of answering this question, is that the skills are the knowledge. That if we make looking at skills knowledge, then we can start to break down these boundaries, but also push knowledge into new areas that we wouldn't have known. And it's something that we all do as academics. If you ask someone who's a Nobel Prize winner or something what he did today, he said, well, I probably took notes. I read an article and I annotated stuff, if he were being honest, That's what academics do at the highest level. Those skills are knowledge. So from a very fundamental, in terms of ontological or approaching the knowledge itself, I would say we need to look at skills as knowledge. Yeah, he's everywhere.
Skills and knowledge.
Yeah. Sure.
That was sort of a multi-part question, and I'm going to start with the last question, if that's okay. Just what are some of the barriers for our students? And I'm not sure if everybody's aware of this, but students in California probably have the least amount of information literacy instruction in terms of libraries of any state in the nation. We rank 50th in all the statistics about having credentialed people working in libraries with our kids. And so I see that with students that come in the library. So their lack of experience, it's not their fault, but they're not getting the skills prior to coming here. So I think a lot of times if faculty are assuming that students know, they need to rethink that. And also to just be aware that even though students haven't been taught, they're often overconfident in their skills because they're good at creating videos, or they're good at doing other things on the computer, and so they equate technological competence with information literacy competence, and they're really two distinctively different things. And there's all kinds of studies that show that students always think they're doing better with information literacy than they really are. So I think those are some of the barriers. And I think another thing as librarians that we struggle with is that students also, and this is documented in all the studies, students are less likely to ask a librarian for help than probably anybody else, even though we're the ones who probably could help them. Mm. So they'll ask their peers, and lots of times they'll ask their professors. And so what we try to do is, allow the faculty to be sort of a conduit between the student and the library. Not that the faculty has to do all the instruction, but the faculty are sort of the first point of contact. And so I think that can be a potential barrier for information literacy.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have to totally agree with that. It's definitely something that needs to be given a lot of time, because there are some real, just the basic deciphering methodology in terms of, again, just the mass amounts of stuff, at least from my standpoint. When I have interns come in, there's a lot of, first like, well, I only know how to do this on this program, and I hate that program. I get that a lot. I hate this program. Well, I never want to use that. I think, well, but aren't you twice as marketable if you know both programs? Like, learn how to do these two things. So there's the assumption, I have them jump on a thing, and then I have this assumption that they're going to know how to do it without having just stopped to ask the question, hey, do you know how to do this? Because I'm asking a lot. I think maybe I'm asking a lot, I don't know. I'll come back an hour later, really nothing has happened. It's because they're trying to figure out how to tell me that they didn't know, and they're upset and embarrassed, and it's not their fault. I mean, it's not the student's fault. And
I think what you just mentioned there, Jason, is sort of the classic, asking the dumb question in the classroom. I think a lot, before it was mostly about content, they didn't understand material, and so they would be embarrassed to ask that. What does this mean? Or what does that mean? But now it's that those dumb questions have expanded to, I don't know how to use props. I don't want to ask that because I would look foolish. Or, well, I don't know how to annotate a PDF, and I don't want to ask that because it's embarrassing. And so I think the numbers of dumb questions that students have are expanding exponentially. And I think as educators, I think one of the challenges is for us to be able to identify what are all those questions that you have that have been taken for granted, and we just assume, oh, here's a computer, go do some work. Or here, we hear of stories of in universities where they give out iPads to every student, and they assume productivity and knowledge and
it's automatic.
Automatically will skyrocket because everybody has an iPad now. There are no excuses.
Yeah.
Information at your fingertips anywhere you want, and but of course it's not true because it's one thing to have access and the tools, and it's an entirely different thing to know how to use it and actually how to make it. To sort of the idea of making investments and almost in a sense of ownership of the material, because you, as a student, I think, as students, I think they oftentimes don't understand the difference between the production and the consumption of knowledge, that very thin line. Sometimes we always think, well, undergrads, this is how I learned it in grad school as well. When you're undergrad, you're a consumer of knowledge. But then when you're a graduate student and beyond, then you're a producer of knowledge. But then those things aren't as clear anymore. Students are producing. The fact that they created a video that got the president's wife here, first lady, to use the percent. That is production of knowledge in amazing new ways.
And that was the guy that hated the other. He knows now. That's what he's putting.
So I think it's a very interesting and I think lots of opportunities